Good morning, everybody. Can everyone hear me clearly? Is that all right on the sound? Yeah. Good. Okay, so a very quick word just on my title. I spent about 7 months of my life doing the British Airways repitch at the end of last year. And that pitch was really all about this ongoing question of what is the new agency model? What is the model for clients in a fast changing world? And as part of that process, I did 50 or so CEO and CMO interviews. So I hope I'm relatively well informed to talk about that. And over the next half an hour or so, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the way we're changing our business, both in the UK and globally, and how we're trying to build a connected specialist model for our customers. I'll talk for about 25, 30 minutes and then hopefully have 10 minutes for questions. Before I do any of that, let me just quickly introduce myself. And I'm going to introduce myself in 4 very simple charts. So that is my mother and my father. They were both actors. They're very different types of actors. My dad did the first 10 years of Crossroads. He was not Benny. I should state that up the front. And my mother was RADA trained, theatrical actress. And you see her there performing in I, Claudius, where she played the president of the Guild of Prostitutes, which is not an easy thing for a 7-year-old at a posh prep school to explain, let me tell you that. Next thing you should know about me is that I spent all my childhood and teens wanting to play rugby for England, and I had the delight of doing that at sort of schools, under-19 students. And I got to play with lots of the guys who then went on to win the World Cup in '03, and that sort of did me a huge favour, really, because it showed me that I definitely wasn't good enough to go all the way, and I needed to get a job. And so what I did is I got a job in advertising. I started at BBH in 1994, so I have worked at BBH for 20 years, which is a slightly scary proposition. And it was the year of Levi's Creek, and it was this extraordinary place where from day one I felt I'd left one kind of culture of excellence and joined another. I worked in the London office till '02, and then I went and ran our business in Asia to '06, which was an extraordinary thing to do because we essentially set up an office in China, closed an office in Tokyo, and pretty much doubled the size of our Singapore business. And then the last thing to say about me before I get into it is that I am a very, very customer-focused and customer-centric person, and that is how we try to orientate BBH. And on that, that's our logo board. It's constructed in order of acquisition, so Audi sits there right at the front, which we won in 1982. And the great delight, many delights of my job, but the real delight is that I get on a weekly basis to spend time with CEOs and CMOs and properly look under the bonnet of just some extraordinary businesses. I think that is a rare privilege, and what I want to try to do is bring lots of the insight and the learning that they've given me to bear in the next 25 minutes or so. So a quick word on BBH globally. We have 8 offices around the world, and those are they. In London, we are about 400 people. We are a £60 million business, and our sort of proposition, if you like, is high performance creativity that drives and grows businesses. So as a consequence, we like charts like this, which is Audi volume sales over a very extended period. We like charts like this next one for Johnny Walker, that's global units of volume, and we like charts like this last one for Lynx, or Axe as it is globally. And I think what we really do, and this is the last bit of the sort of credsy bit really, is we create big enduring ideas for brands and we execute them in fresh and in delightful ways. And I'm going to show you a few bits of work over the course of this, but the first bit of work I want to show you is actually out of our Singapore business, and it's done for IKEA. So let me show you this little piece of film and then we'll talk about it.
You know, once in a while, something comes along that changes the way we live. A device so simple and intuitive, using it feels almost familiar. Introducing the 2015 IKEA catalog. It's not a digital book or an e-book. It's a book. The first thing to note is no cables, not even a power cable. The 2015 IKEA catalog comes fully charged and the battery life is eternal. The interface is 7.5 by 8 inches, but can expand to 15 by 8 inches. The navigation is based on tactile touch technology that you can actually feel. Content comes pre-installed via 328 high-definition pages of inspiring and furnishing ideas. To start browsing, simply touch and drag. Right to left to move forwards, left to right to move backwards. Notice something else? That's right, no lag. Each crystal clear page loads instantaneously, no matter how fast you scroll. If you want to get a quick overview, just hold it in the palm of your hand and using just your thumb, speed browse the content. If you find something you want to save for later, you can simply bookmark it. And even if you close the application, you can easily find the bookmark again. Amazing. What about multiple users? For that, we've introduced a simple color coding system to avoid confusion. If you want to share a particularly inspiring item, you literally share it. Another special feature is password protection, which is voice activated. Excuse me, that's mine. At IKEA, we feel that technology this life enhancing should be in the hands of everyone. So the 2015 IKEA catalog is free. You can download one from your mailbox, the one you open with a key. If it's not there, try refresh the next day. Or you can upload yourself to the IKEA store and find one there. Experience the power of a book.
So clearly the sort of the point of creative interest there is the constant back and forth between the digital and the physical world. And I think that's kind of a big theme for what I want to talk about, really. And I want to make a couple of assertions as I go through this speech. And the first one is as follows, which is that I think really it is the convergence of classic creative craft skills with technology and technologists that gives brands and brand owners the greatest opportunities. And I hope that's a theme that you'll see all the way through this and that I'm going to keep coming back to. Because I think we found it's often the collaborations between quite different and hybrid teams where the magic really happens. And we're actually sort of laying out our building now in a way that makes those collaborations less haphazard and more strategic. Because when you put together disciplines like classic narrative filmmaking and social, you get really extraordinary outcomes. So I'm going to play you a quick piece of film we've just made for Adidas, and then I'll tell you how film and social came together.
It takes a special type of player to make a difference, especially in a league as tight as this one. Someone with vision, with imagination, who can pick apart the most secure defense. You need perseverance and a belief in yourself to trust you'll get it right. That you can be the one who makes things happen. Who sees things that others don't. Because you have the key to unlock the defense. To unlock the titan.
So that film was launched in all of Adidas's social channels, and the really interesting bit of the campaign is that the concept of Unlock the Game then became a digital poster concept. And what happened was, during games, when an Adidas player did something, unlock the game, we would write lines, get them approved literally within 15 to 20 seconds of crafting them, and then we would post them in Adidas social channels. And so we were doing a thing that I think is pretty unprecedented, which was live, in-game crafting and writing of lines, getting them approved and pushing them straight back out. And I think that opens up a whole new horizon for creativity. BBH has just launched a sport unit, BBH Sport, and I think one of the big opportunities there is enriching the dual screen engagement and watching of sport that fans now, we all regularly kind of engage with. Another interesting collaboration is when one puts classic art design and UX together. And there's a very visual, essentially selling mechanic we developed for British Airways that I want to play you now, called Picture Your Holiday. And that is utterly born of a collaboration of this nature.
Holiday planning starts with your imagination. We visualise them, feel what they might be like. It's an emotional process, yet no one in the category treats it like that. So for BA's customers, we want it to be as stressless as possible and actually make it pleasurable. We've invented a way to buy a BA holiday purely by choosing pictures, to literally picture your holiday. A service solution to an advertising problem, our digital tool has a doggedly simple and intuitive design vision. The images instead lead the way. While you're enjoying exploring a world of images, the back end of Picture Your Holiday cleverly reads these choices and then serves up some holiday options to suit, for you to explore, share, or book there and then. And it was clear to us that our design-led digital product wasn't a supporting device for an ad campaign, it was the campaign. Performance figures from the tool's use are great, and consumer feedback equally so, with a barrage of tweets about how refreshing it is. And the cherry on top so far has been Picture Your Holiday gaining the highly prestigious Site of the Day award from the FWA.
So a business like ours has been on a journey of digital transformation for a long time, really, and bits of work like that make me believe we're making some progress, because there are classic craft skills of art direction, storytelling, etc., mashed right up with UX, design, digital production. And that leads me to my second assertion, really, which is, if you can pull together the often kind of divergent forces of collaboration and specialism, if you can ride those two horses at the same time, you will set yourselves up for success. Now, it's not the only way, of course. We've all probably heard the stories of the creative despot or the single visionary leader, but that's quite a difficult model to scale. It's also not a lot of fun to operate within. And I think, interestingly, lots of the great pioneers were actually more collaborative than one may have thought. I've just read a very interesting thing about Einstein, who was actually way more collaborative than people may have thought. He was open when his predecessors were closed, and he relentlessly collaborated with his competitors and peers. He got them to develop and challenge his thinking. He challenged and developed theirs. He reconciled, I think, this concept of expertise and collaboration that I believe is so key. And the phrase we are using consistently now, I think our go-to-market proposition operationally is going to be connected specialism. And my structure just follows that very simply. So I want to talk about how we make marketing communications more connected. I want to talk about how one seeks out and invests in greater specialism, and I want to talk about how you bring it all together in a connected specialist model. And I think it's fair to say I worked this out quite recently, I spend about 70% of my time with customers, listening to them and their issues. And when I did that big body of research, the themes that came back were terribly consistent, and they're probably not surprising. And these are the themes that sort of screamed out: performance, craft, creativity, cost, collaboration. But connectedness and specialism came through stronger than anything. And I've really spent the last year or so trying to translate that learning into our go-to-market proposition. I'm sure you've sat in many speeches which were theoretical, intellectual. I'm going to try to make sure this is not either of those things. I once heard a brilliant expression by a client who delivered the following line to a overly theoretical researcher, if you use that again, which is, he said to him, "You are like a lighthouse in a desert, very illuminating but no use to anyone." He actually said it rather less politely than that, but I thought I would spare you. So I'm going to try to make this very practical and give it lots of kind of utility. So let's talk about the first point: how we make marketing more connected and how it has become so disconnected. I think it's fair to say when I started in '94, sales and marketing were much better connected. In fact, there were lots of job titles that were sales and marketing director. It was often one person. Sales was marketing, marketing was sales. And in those times, data really mattered. If you were an account man in an agency, your store checks, your pricing checks, your competitive reviews really, really mattered. You got into the inside of your customer's business. And in our business, we created a culture where our creativity was informed, and where, using a John Hegarty phrase, we tried to turn intelligence into magic. It was informed creativity. It was connected to the client's business. But I think it's fair to say, if I look at the 20 years that have followed, it wasn't to last, and things started to get disconnected. When I joined BBH, there was an in-house media department. And I think one of the great challenges for a business like ours was the dislocation of media and creativity. Because again, when I started, you could walk along a corridor with a creative idea and immediately begin talking about how it might be deployed. And the whole debate of media first or creative first was academic, because what you did is you both sat around a table and improved and developed the idea together. And then obviously with the arrival of digital as a specialism, not just as a kind of communications channel, things got even more fragmented. And rather than having one agency housed under one roof where media and creative thinking took place, there was at the very minimum 3 partners. And you could argue it is the search for specialism that has actually pulled this connected model even further apart. We were told by oyster catchers the other day that the average UK client has 12 agencies working for him or her. So it's no surprise to me that things have got terribly disconnected. There's an expression I like, which is that creatives can't help but recreate. If it's not invented here, people feel the need to reinvent it. And I think that's just fatiguing for clients, it's expensive, and it can often be slow. And it is the pulling apart of creativity and effectiveness, creativity and performance, that I think has been the big challenge over the last few years. Just think of something like awards. It seems increasingly nonsensical to me that there are so few awards. I think Cannes is one of the few examples where creativity and effectiveness do become one thing. Too often, these two award systems are pulled apart. There are effectiveness awards, there are creative awards, and that divergence creates a divergence of agendas. And we know that that is never a good thing. So I think clients have had enough of this discontinuity, and I think it's ironic, really, that in an increasingly connected world, marketing and marketing services have got ever more disconnected. And I think it's our belief that as channels and marketing proliferates, we have to find something that pulls it all together. Because the obvious question is, what will the glue be? What will be the thing that helps to create continuity where discontinuity has occurred? And you would expect me to say this, but it is our belief at BBH that the glue, the connecting force, is the idea. And BBH has 10 beliefs etched in steel in every office around the world. And belief number 1 is this one: the power of creativity and the primacy of the idea. So it is our belief that the primal connecting force needs to be the organising idea for a brand, because we know that a great idea, an idea like to fly to serve, can connect up organisations. We know that a brilliant organising idea like keep walking can connect up geographies, markets with terribly different belief systems. We know that an organising idea like Believe in Children for Barnardo's can connect up communities of interest. And we know that a great organising idea can connect up the customer journey. It can connect up the journey from engagement and awareness all the way through to purchase. And it's our belief that organising ideas like this execution for British Airways should be like the words in a stick of rock. And I'm just going to share now sort of assertion number 3. Sorry, Holly, just go back one. Assertion number 3, which is that point I've just made, which is, in a fragmented world, the ultimate connector, the thing that should bind the marketing mix together, is that organising idea. And this execution for BA says and does exactly that. It runs through the organisation. People at Diageo sign off their emails, keep walking. And we're quite good, over the years we've been quite good at creating these type of ideas, these kind of assets for brands that endure. And here are just a couple of them. So we launched Vorsprung Dork Technique in 1982. That is still as powerful and potent an idea as ever for Audi. The Lynx effect, or the Axe effect as it is globally, is in its 20th year. Keep Walking for Johnny Walker is in its 15th year. And these organising ideas do exactly what I've argued they need to. And then finally, and I'll just play a film quickly here. Go on.
High school was bad. I was obviously gay, and I did get harassed. What I'd love you to take away from it is that however bad it is now, it gets better, and it can get great.
Okay, little ones, here's the first thing you need to know.
You are perfect and wonderful exactly as you are.
You're not alone. There are a ton of us out here in this world.
We love you without even knowing you.
There's art to be made, and there are songs to be sung.
So hold on. Look at me, 80 years old. It gets better with age.
It gets better.
It gets better.
It gets better.
So much better. You'll be fine, partner.
Your life can be amazing, but you have to tough this period of it out, and you have to live.
So that organising idea for Google Chrome, the web is what you make of it. I've shown you one execution. There's about 20 of those, all as powerful in their individual markets as that one was in the US. So, just checking in on where we are on this story. Everything needs to connect up. Organising ideas are a great way of connecting organisations and marketing mix. But what is it they need to connect? And I think my hypothesis is what they need to connect up operationally are specialists. And I think specialism is a truth of every high-performance culture or high-performance team I've ever engaged with. You can't possibly do your job properly if you're trying to do someone else's. It's true on a film set, it's true in an orchestra, and in the sport that I know best, in rugby, it's utterly true. The only way that people of such radically different body shapes and skill sets can excel, can represent their country, is because they have highly specialist and specialised functions. They know when to collaborate, They know what it is that their job is and how and when to do it. So assertion number 4 for me is that productive collaboration demands specialists, not generalists, and it demands very high levels of respect and trust. And I think those last couple of words are terribly important, and we see that again and again. You know, sometimes all the people you're collaborating with work for you, often they don't. They work in other organisations, and where those collaborations and partnerships work best is when there is trust and generosity and respect for what it is you're best at and what your partners are best at. And at BBH, I think it's fair to say we love specialists and we love craft skills. The best creative teams I've ever worked with, the classic construct of an art director and a copywriter, increasingly that's not the shape of teams, but back in the day, the art director came from art school. He or she could really art direct. The writer could really write. He or she was probably a journalist or some form of writer in a previous life. And I think one of the great challenges for an industry like ours is what the creative colleges are teaching now is more conceptual thinking, and they are undercooking the out-and-out craft skills of creative talent. And what we're finding is we are having to do that. We are having to invest and train the creative craft skills of the people that we hire. So the 5th assertion, there's only one more of these, is that I would urge you, if you are in creative services, to pack your business with specialists. That is what we are doing. You need to demonstrate that you have a specialism and we will develop it, or that you are committed to building one. And I think it's very important because not only do they deliver on a creative objective because they get you to better solutions, they also deliver on a critical commercial metric, which is they get to answers faster and they get it right first time, more of the time. And I was reminded as I was rereading this that statement sounded very like Brian Fantana from one of the great movies of the world, the iconic aftershave Sex Panther. They've done studies and 60% of the time it works every time. I did that purely because I wanted to get Anchorman into this speech. And creative specialists are able to get you, because they often have multiple specialisms, to better answers. I'm not going to show the Guardian film, but the interesting thing about the film we've just made for the Guardian is that the guy that wrote it also interestingly wrote the music and amazingly actually sang and recorded the music as well. And I'm not sure that is a common set of hybrid skills, but the Guardian went on air with a film written, orchestrated and sung by the same guy. I think it's fair to say that this concept of connected specialism is a principle that BBH was founded on. I think John Bartle, Nigel Bogle and John Hegarty were specialists who connected up, outstanding individually. One was a planner, one was an account man, one was a creative. But together, connected, they were peerless. And this concept of connected specialism is very front of mind for me because, like I said, it was our pitch for the British Airways pitch. And what I spotted very early on as the incumbent was we couldn't retain British Airways on our own. We didn't have the CRM or digital one-to-one capability to retain that very flagship bit of business without reaching out and finding the very best in breed in that space and bringing them into our business. So that's exactly what we did. We partnered with the brilliant Simon Hall and Warren Moore, founders of Proximity, and we brought them into our pitch process very early. We did a joint venture with them and we modelled our whole team and our whole proposition about brilliant broadcast communication. That was what we were going to do, and brilliant one-to-one and CRM thinking. That was what they were going to do. And we made the space that we were going to work in strategic. We built an organogram, which I'll show you in a second. And what that organogram did is it reflected the way we wanted to work. We even made a piece of film, which I'll show you, because I think the proposition that we went for was an example of this assertion here, which is it's not possible to be specialist at absolutely everything. And I think one of the things we probably regret over time is that we were not more humble and more confident in going out and partnering with and bringing in specialisms that we didn't have. We've tried to do historically almost all of it ourselves, and the Hall & Moore experience is bring in and partner very quickly with people who have specialisms that you don't have and that your client really needs. And back to the space on BA, this was essentially the 50-person organogram for how we were going to lay out our space. And it was, anyone that's seen the Telegraph space, which is the most stunning case study, I think, of how space informs a way of working. Each of the spokes that come off that central working table represents holidays and sport and business and travel, etc. And we did exactly that. We put a space for partners, we put a space for account managers, we put a space for strategists, and we even brought it to life as a piece of film. I'll just run the film that we actually showed in the pitch. So that was how you would come into BBH, and then you would come down into our atrium and head left, and you would get the 50-person dedicated space. I'm very interested in how space impacts and nurtures ways of working. So it would have been easy to go, we'll have all of the Hall & Moore guys in one bit of the space and all of the BBH guys in another, and we did the opposite. We said all the strategists are going to sit on one table, all the creatives are going to sit on another, all of the data and analytics guys would sit on another, likewise production. And what's a delight for me now is that I can walk around that space and it's very unclear who was a Hall & Moore person and who was a BBH person. And I think it's important that we set up right at the beginning of that relationship what our operational and founding principles were going to be, because I think often the reason the one-stop shop or the integrated model falls apart is because people end up rowing about things like money, and they end up in quite parochial turf war about who's executing what. So we set very clearly, very early, from the very top, these 4 principles, that there would be out-and-out respect for expertise, would come together, crack a problem, and then respect each other to execute in the channel that they were most expert in. That we would want to deliver very high quality in every single touch point. If it was an email to exec club or a big broadcast film, it had to be excellent. That we would share revenue and cost absolutely down the middle. There would be no punch-ups over money, and we would be terribly generous around credit and around respect for who had done what. And I think there might be a question that you might be asking as you're listening to this, which is, isn't this simply integration? Isn't this a one-stop shop concept that lots of our competitors introduced over a decade ago? And I would argue that the customers that work with us and that have rejected a one-stop shop or an integrated proposition do it essentially for 2 reasons. Firstly, they say that the best-in-breed promise that I was offered is not delivered. I don't think I am getting the very best in CRM or in broadcast or in digital one-to-one, etc., etc. And secondly, that often the process of integration is the process of taking an idea that is invented in one channel and stretching it and extending it into many others. It becomes matching luggage. So it's our belief connected specialism is not integration, although obviously it shares some themes. And an obvious point to make is that sometimes you will be partnering, and BBH has partners in the room today who we work very, very well with. We'll be with people who don't work for you, who are not in your building. And 2 very quick examples of, I think, fantastic collaborations. The first is a fabulous thing we've just done with Virgin Media, where we had this idea of timing yourself in a sprint at the Commonwealth Games against the fastest man on the planet, how we created a digital screen to race against Usain Bolt and clock your time. And we partnered with the brilliant Itch, who built the biggest digital screen in history, and we'll show you the film that brings that idea to life.
There's nothing out there in the world that's been done like this before.
We wanted to bring something that nobody has ever seen before, once in a lifetime opportunity to race the fastest man on the planet.
Creating a 13-metre screen, having a projection of the fastest man on earth, being able to download your time and share it with your friends. You leave that event feeling not only that actually you participated in the game, but you have something completely unique, and actually you feel really, really good about the Virgin brand.
I just think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm told there are only 3 or 4 absolutely horrific hamstring injuries, so not bad results at all, really. Another great collaboration that's very recent is with the brilliant Sunshine. We worked with them on the Bailey's Prize for Fiction. Again, a fabulous collaboration. I think Sunshine did an outstanding job in executing that idea, bringing together an amazing panel and really associating Bailey's with female novelists and with book clubs, etc., etc. I'm going to show one more piece of film and then I'll start wrapping up. And that's because this last piece of film executes or exhibits the ultimate form of collaboration, really, which is collaborating with the consumer. Let me show you this piece of film around what we've just done for PlayStation in America.
Throughout history, the greatest men and women have been celebrated through paint and canvas. Today, we are celebrating a new kind of hero, someone with boundless talent, unrivaled passion, and Herculean determination. And that someone goes by the name of Joey Chu. This is the story of how young Joey Chu was painted into history as one of the greatest gamers to ever play. It all started when we commissioned world-renowned oil painter Andreas Ungland and asked him to reimagine one of history's most famous paintings through the eyes of PlayStation. With boatfuls of the most epic PlayStation characters, all that was left to do was find the greatest gamer to helm the ship. For 3 days during this year's E3, we painted a mural. At the end, we asked the question, are you the greatest? Then, from a short list of 5 of the best gamers in the world, Joey Chu found his rightful home crossing the Delaware. Now at greatnessawaits.com, you can choose from 3 paintings to make your very own gamer masterpiece. If yours is selected as one of the greatest, we will mail you your gamer masterpiece and a PS4 system. And you can join the ranks of Liberty, Achilles, Washington, and Joey Chu.
I love that idea. And I think we're taking the concept of connected specialism into our whole innovation and go-to-market NPD proposition. So increasingly, you will be able to access BBH through a number of different doors, through a number of different specialisms, be that through the core advertising business, through the recently launched sport business, through the CRM business with Hall & Moore, through a low-cost, high-volume production business, or through analytics. They'll all be connected. They will all be specialist. And interestingly, we're also going to take connected specialism into our international model, because obviously a BBH office will deliver its core strategic and creative outputs, but it will also take a lead on different forms of specialism. So our business in LA is increasingly building a very powerful entertainment and content proposition. In Stockholm, we have an outstanding mobile business. In China, a very visual part of the world, we are increasingly design-led. And in Singapore, and I'm probably not going to show the Singapore film, we're building a very good activation and an experiential business. And each of those businesses will take a lead for the group as a centre of innovation and expertise in those spaces. So I'm going to start wrapping up now. I've made 6 assertions, and I'll run through them very quickly. The first one is that it is the convergence of classic craft skills with technology and technologists that offers brands and brand owners the biggest opportunities. The second is that if you can balance the potentially divergent forces of collaboration and specialism, you'll be setting yourself up for success. The third is that in an increasingly fragmented world, the ultimate connector, the glue that binds together the marketing mix, is the organising idea. The fourth is that productive collaboration demands specialism and specialists, not generalists. and it demands high levels of trust and respect. The fifth is that you need to pack your business with specialists. They get you to better creative solutions and they get you to better margins. And the final one is that if you don't have a specialism that your customer wants, find someone who has it and bring it into your business very quickly. If you haven't read the new Pixar book, I really urge you to read it. I don't read many business books, but this was a proper scales from the eyes experience for me. It is an extraordinary book. It's written by Ed Catmull, who alongside John Lasseter founded Pixar. And the theme that just comes through again and again and again is the convergence of these two forces, of collaboration and of expertise. And that if you can put brilliant animators, brilliant storytellers, alongside brilliant software developers and technologists, genuine magic will happen. And their record, their extraordinary record, is proof of that. So I've tried to make a rallying cry for connecting things up better, also for more specialism and for better craft skills. I think I've shared our plans locally and internationally. And I want to finish really with a sort of an open invitation for anyone who wants to collaborate with us. If you have a specialism that you believe we don't have, or if you have an idea for a BBH brand, please bring it to us. We will share revenue, we will share credit, we will be very open about acknowledging what it is that you have done to contribute. I get out of the lift every day at BBH and I read an expression from Nigel Bogle which sits on our wall, and the expression is as follows: none of us is as good as all of us. And it is a daily mantra to me around the power of collaboration. We have a very smart CD out in Los Angeles who believes a new leadership skill for creative directors is collaboration. And that really was going to be my parting thought. None of us is as good as all of us. Please come and collaborate if you have a specialism to bring. Thank you very much for listening.